native unsubstantiated cuisine in the first place for the grunts to complain about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, there is one of them that said, it's not our fault they can't get by on like sludge and bits of corpse.
Yeah, that's what I did. And I was like, oh, so you do have to eat these things.
Yeah.
Right. She's not happy with the game.
Hmm?
She's not happy with.
Oh yeah, I was
yeah,
saying that
that's
in
what it is.
Pizza
And Belly
Australia.
says Vampire the Masquerade has shit graphics.
Yeah.
Of course, it's got shit about it.
I think
Then
they're quite good
at
graphics.
the bottom
It's
I
eight
said
as
to Misa that I can farm her fast for if she's that bothered about it.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. Yes.
Storytelling time.
Yeah, he's got his
This-
camera and everything.
This is quite fractured in terms of like what I've written. So it's like I skip ahead quite a bit. But it's pretty much, this is Desmond in 35 years' time, and he gets a visit from Grubbeck. Right. So should I begin?
Who's got it?
Chieftain, Grant Cock and Uzi's son.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember names, I just remember who they are.
Yeah. So he's eventually going to be chieftain.
Okay.
After his sister.
Yeah, and he's good. If they're still around, he'll be making Goldrum and Ursula stone guards and some other. And yeah,
Well, he better well be doing, because they're his mate's parents.
he's also going to be the leader of the daggers, whereas the dead mother, who's going to be Saska, which is those two have decided to carry a feature for you, Goldrum.
Well, no, you suggested it, and I said yes.
Yeah,
If
she.
you look at her personality, it makes sense. She has his diplomacy and her chauvinism.
It's
Yeah.
kind of sad that when all this is happening, Savic's kids aren't actually the adults yet.
Yeah.
So one of them's a half-elf and the other one's full.
The half-elf will be pushing that.
Where's Sarfek in all this?
Sarfek's still alive.
Living in a cave.
They'll be referring to Dagger Chieftain then.
Yeah, Dagger
And
Chieftain.
Totem Mother.
Oh, that'll just mess him up completely.
It'll take like 2 weeks to get his head round it.
2 weeks.
Like Hodges when he realised he wasn't a sergeant anymore and he hadn't been demoted. It was just, there was no more sergeants
It no
anymore.
longer existed.
Sita, are you a sergeant?
Congratulations, Sita.
It's like when they tell
It's
you
a
you
hard
don't have
job,
a job
but-
anymore, and you think it's because you've been sacked, but it's because the company doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Right.
I figured it out, by the way. That company told me I should say I worked at. I would have been 15 by the time it went past.
That's what I was thinking when I was saying, hang on a minute, wait, no, don't say you're working for them. Anyway.
As unlikely as it was, Desmond Hodges had been part of Dagger and Totem for more than 3 decades. There were some members of his clan who seemed to have been around forever and had hardly changed a bit. These grunts and sergeants could be split into 2 distinct groups, the Sindorai and the Undead. They had their own cliques, of course, of sorts. There was some satisfaction for them in knowing that they'd served under the mythical chieftain and dead mother of yore, and in sticking with the clan through 3 whole decades. They had proven their loyalty many times over. Now they served under Chieftain Grubbeck, an orc they had seen being an infant, a pup, a young warrior, and now leader of the Daggers. Desmond was humming to himself. His dusty, fractured voice was reciting an old dwarven ballad that he didn't know the words to but never forgot the tune of. It was a time in the early evening that he delegated to paperwork, field reports, financial assessments, and even the week's hard leather ball scores. The chieftain liked those. Hodges treated deadlines like friends that he always managed to stay 5 minutes away from. With them in his life, he was a better person, but getting too intimate and too close would spell disaster. It was because of this that he was taking a relaxed approach to their latest to this latest batch. The gin in his hand was as much as a quill. Later that day, he was going to the Gorrick's Hammersmaid pub with the rest of the folks who could still remember when Grencock was a chieftain and us and the Den Mother. This group that called itself the Golden Oldies were mostly comprised themselves and forsaken, with a majority of the former. Under normal circumstances, Hodges may have been aghast at the imbalance of racial divide, but really, he'd known a lot of them enough years for the green eyes and silky hair not to matter. The golden oldie contingent was always quietly impressed at how many of the younger daggers and totems consulted them for advice, and asked questions with the utmost respect. They had been considered elders without ever donning ceremonial wear. Desmond was still trying to fathom why, for instance, the daggers listened carefully to Sabic's words, despite the fact that 99% of the time he spoke complete rubbish. Alright, so there's a knock at the door at this point, later, just like quite soon, and then turns out to be Grubbock. So Desmond had to admit he liked a chieftain who made constant checks on him. Gremcar, with his uproarious idea of everyone being equal, had let him get on with his own thing. His own thing. What an absurd suggestion. It was a chieftain's job to decide on what everyone's thing was. It did not take the Forsaken long to realise there was something ugly going on today, though. The chieftain slowly moved around the room, foregoing his usual intrusions into Desmond's privacy. No glance at the comedy relief wall, no peek into the bin, and no inspection of the sergeant's in-tray. He refrained from conversation and simply sat down in the guest's chair. "Hard day, chieftain?" asked Desmond. His arid voice only just capable of sounding sympathetic. The chieftain's eyes focused themselves on a green felt of Desmond's table. His right fist pressed into his upper leg. He was thinking. "This clan feels asleep under me, Desmond." Asleep? Best word I can think of. This town isn't getting any bigger. We're not winning any more battles. And we haven't had one of our own become a champion of a horde in years. So yes, asleep. There isn't a war going on, chieftain. The whole horde is asleep. That's no bad thing. Orgrimmar isn't complaining, so why should you? Grubbock growled, a neon bulb sign that he didn't appreciate the contradictions. Desmond looked at the strong-limbed, scar-handed chieftain of Dagger and Totem. Orc strops of the worst, utterly inconsolable, and somehow threatening. It seemed to be a trait exclusive to the males. Gremcar had been the same occasionally, and so, often to disastrous outcomes, had Frau. To Hodges, Grubbock now looked like a picture of self-loathing. It was spawned from a total lack of perspective, of course. "The troops think you're remarkable, chieftain," he offered. Oh God, he wasn't very good at this, obviously. Suman egos. And then it goes on a bit. I knew your father before you understood him, chieftain. I have for a long, long list of his shortcomings. It was only when your mother came into the picture that he stopped arsing around and started being reliable. Prior to her, we never knew whether he was coming or going, or what sexual felonies he was going to commit on any given week. She settled him on purpose. On the face of it, probably not. It just happened. Grubbock had always used the Forsaken Sergeant as a repository for knowledge, but it was almost always Marshal Forbist. Until now, he'd restricted his recollections to only passing, fond-hearted comments. But now, Gremcar, if you'll forgive me for using his name, was terrified by the possibility that he'd ruin everything again, that he'd come across another orc who pleased his libido. I think he felt his own mind was fragile, and he was probably right. Maybe that's why he was so quick to claim Cruss as his daughter, so he had some kind of foundation to house himself in. And your mother was a nightmarish fellbore, if the history I pieced together is to be believed. Know what a Takboda is? Grubbock leapt up. No? Good, I won't tell you. And then it goes on a bit, and Grubbock says, I didn't know my parents were that sad. Sad? What on Azeroth made you think they were sad? Well, and then Hodges replies, shine light, Grubbock. You may have enjoyed a pampered childhood, but I hoped you wouldn't be that dim on the subject. Back then, times were hard. People took all the happiness they could get, even when the world egged them into doing phenomenally daft things. Once they'd met, your parents practically skipped through life, so happy were they to dominate each other's lives. Hodges leaned back into the chair and pushed his two palms over his eyes. This was the sort of alley that he knew was not part of his town. Why, he asked, staggered, have you not gone to see Goldrum or Ursula about these things? Or Pruss, for pity's sake? I can get the truth from you, Desmond. You don't shy away from it. Ah, yes, that would be because I am without conscience. It's funny, Chieftain, how every single one of my Orcish leaders has looked upon me as a plus, a reason to grant me a high position within the clan. It was at this point that Hodges did something drastic. He pushed his quill and papers to one side. Brother, I've got a busy night lined up. There's a darts game I'm looking forward to playing badly at, and a bowl of pork scratchings to be enjoyed. In light of that, I'll make this quick. You are tragically mistaken if you think your parents' lives were sad. And that's what I've written of it. So I'm hoping that's going to turn into something bigger. But it's like I've written quite a bit of it in Word as well, but it's very kind of piecemeal at the minute. But is it good?
No, it's terrible.
It's
terrible.
shit.
Put it in the bin.
How
Yeah.
dare you say that Savik just talks rubbish?
I think in the Word document he actually said he talks completely. It's either codswallop or shite.
I'd hope it was shite.
But obviously that's just Hodges' opinion.
No, his opinion's quite correct.
Yeah.